If your team got guaranteed money, tell them call me.
Whoop. Make me say, my. I done been around the world.
Yeah, I was made for this.
Player Performance with J.A. Cavalier.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to NBA Player Performance on this Wednesday, a gigantic Wednesday. It is Wednesday, May 14, 2025. I am the Shark, J.A. Cavalier, cashing tickets around the world. Luke Shuey, traveling around the world. The legend he is. I am here. We got a conversation to ensue. I see my guys in the chat. Whenever I'm by myself, I love to just get the conversation going with you guys. So immediately drop questions. I will answer. We will get flowing. As I said, huge day in NBA basketball history tonight. The Knicks have not been to the conference finals since 1998, 1999. Tonight could be the night, and tonight could be the night. Anthony Edwards, maybe the next generation's chosen one, goes to back-to-back Western Conference finals. I got plays, I got angles, I got conversation. NBA Player Performance starts now.
I live the bright lights, the type, the crowd lights, where you at, ballers? Ladies love me and men, they wanna be me, they pay to come see me, where you at, ballers?
Wednesdays are for winning. Big time ball. We're glad to be here. We wait all summer for these moments, and we are here in the now. 7 o'clock in Boston. Celtics hosting the Knicks. Knicks catching 4.5 or 5 points, total hovering around 207.5, and truly an incredible conversation. This is the chance for the Knicks to get off a generational schneid of complete garbage and go to their first conference finals since the lockout season in 1998, 1999. I think it's coming tonight. I'm giving you guys a free play. Take the Knicks at +5. And as I said, when we were looking at this series coming into the past couple weeks, we certainly did not think we'd be here. Only delusional Knicks fans sitting in the middle of Manhattan sipping beer who are saying they're geniuses right now were calling this 2 weeks ago. But here we are. The present is now. I think the Knicks get it done tonight. Let's talk about the psychology of this game. One of the biggest angles I'm hearing on TV, on Twitter, X, on YouTube, across the internet is Boston will not lose a closeout game at home. I certainly understand. Jason Tatum went down, brutal injury. He probably will be out until late next season. All prayers and positive energy to Tatum, highly respected and respectable professional athlete. This team is going to rally in some format. This is not going to be a blowout. Boston's going to show up. The TD Garden's going to be on fire. And Boston's going to come out here with survivalistic energy to try to elongate the series. And they're going to show up for Tatum. He's probably going to be in the arena. I'm not entirely sure, coming off of, I believe, surgery yesterday. But there's going to be a jolt early. But the key point here is that a 48-minute jolt? I don't think so. And I think when you look at the Knicks, I said it last week when the Knicks had no business theoretically winning game 2 in Boston off a game 1 victory. I said the Knicks are a great team on the road in the playoffs. And I said they have the most competitive player in the entire league. And you could debate that. We can maybe open up some questions in a few minutes about that. But I firmly believe that Jalen Brunson right now is the highest level competitor in the NBA. More than Anthony Edwards, more than SGA, more than any of these other guys. And for those of you guys that know the mental makeup of Brunson, he's the son of Rick Brunson, who was a role player on the Knicks in the 90s. And you talk about pedigree, you talk about being brought up for this moment. Rick Brunson had Jalen on the playground kicking his ass when the guy was like 5 years old. He has been brought up for this moment since the beginning, and he's been brought up to win for the Knicks. This is his game. It's his season. It's his time. And you go back to round one, the Knicks didn't theoretically have any business beating Detroit on the road in game 6. Well, what happened? They scrapped it together, and Jalen Brunson had an incredible dribble little segue for a three-point ball to win the game 116-113. The Knicks are very capable of closing out desperate teams on the road. Go back to last year. I said it that day when we were talking about the Detroit game. The Knicks went into Philadelphia last year in round 1 in game 6 in a game they had no business winning against a much better version of Philadelphia with peak prime Joel Embiid and Maxey, and they beat Philadelphia on the road to win the first round last year. This team functions great in road closeout games. Tom Thibodeau is an old school grinder coach, and they have the Nova Knicks. You know, you talk about pedigree, you talk about mindset. Jalen Brunson, it's more than Jalen Brunson. It's Josh Hart. It's Mikal Bridges. It's these guys that won championships in college. And, you know, we talk about this sometimes, maybe not enough. Winning championships in college helps you win titles in the NBA. You believe in yourself. You've seen yourself do it. You function better under pressure. You function better in elongated seasons where, you know, 80% of the league is on vacation right now. This is just where the Knicks are coming for business. And just a couple more points on this. When you look at the number here, Boston favored -4.5 is actually a Knicks number. When you guys look at line functionality takes into account the roster quality. So it's not just because Tatum's out and this is all of a sudden strong. That's not what line functionality is. The lines and algorithmic book numerology, it takes everything into account. So when Boston's a 6-point favorite on the road, which they were in the last game, Boston should come up to a 9 or 10-point home favorite. The fact they're coming down to 3.5 means books actually love the Knicks. And I know that might sound a little bit all over the place, but this is a model that I've looked at for 7 or 8 years. Boston is actually a short favorite here tonight. And I was going through how the Celtics have performed this year without Tatum, which obviously is an interesting point, particularly in the regular season, where we talk about this regularly. Tatum will be out. The role players play better. The other team lays down. All of a sudden, the Celtics walk away with a 20-point victory. It actually hasn't been that smooth for this group. Boston role players do play well without Tatum on the court. Their stats inflate, but the team does not perform well against the spread. Tatum did miss 11 games this year, 10 in the regular season, and game 2 at home against Orlando. Boston is only 3-8 ATS without Tatum in the lineup this year, 1-4 against playoff caliber teams. Only cover against a playoff caliber team this year without Tatum way back in December. They caught a shooting heater outlier against Detroit. So not performing well in this environment at all. That all being said, Kristaps Porzingis averages 23 points per game if Tatum's not playing. Jaylen Brown averages 25. And Peyton Pritchard averages 21.9 points per game at home if Tatum doesn't play. So I'm giving you guys 2 free plays in this game. Take the Knicks at +5. This game will be played right around the money line. I have either team to win this game by 1 or 2 points. It's going to be tight. +5 is a great number. And we're taking Peyton Pritchard over 14.5 points. It's all the angles I have on this. It's interesting psychology. I'm telling you guys, Boston will compete. But again, competing and desiring something doesn't necessarily dictate a result. The Knicks are more talented. The Knicks are equally desperate. The Knicks have better pedigree currently with this roster. The Knicks are less fatigued over seasons. The numbers on the Knicks, it is their time. Take the Knicks, buy the damn hat, buy the team, and let's cash. Going to the second game here, also 3-1. Warriors at Timberwolves, 9:30 p.m., Target Center in Minnesota. First series, I just said, a very surprising 3-1. This is probably a bit of a surprise, too, at 3-1. Also, disruption. No Tatum, no Steph Curry. The injuries in this league dating back seasons have been historical. I still am trying to wrap my mind around how these guys keep getting hurt. I don't know if it's a lack of training, a lack of stretching. I don't know if it's load management failing because they're not playing enough, so their sustainability isn't there, or if it's just purely bad luck. I don't really think it's bad luck given the amount of injuries we're seeing in the playoffs, in the regular season, and going back a few seasons. That all being said, I think this is where Minnesota does get the job done tonight and go to their second consecutive Western Conference Finals. And when I was looking at this earlier today, I was saying to myself, how interesting is this that Indiana is going to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, and the Wolves most likely will make it 2 in a row in the West. And we've said this constantly, but the league is in a changeover point. It's not LeBron James. It's not Steph Curry. It's not Kevin Durant. It's not Kawhi Leonard. Maybe it's not even Giannis at this point. It's certainly not Lillard. It's not these guys. This league is Halliburton. It's Edwards. It's Brunson. It's SGA. ESPN, TNT, the league, they are rushing, and I mean rushing, to figure out how to promote these guys so they can sell jerseys and market the league in coming years, because we're seeing a quick exit of the old guard and a very rapid entrance of the new guard. And the new guard, as I said, look no further than Anthony Edwards. This guy is balling. This guy is elite. This guy is an elite talent. I've said over the years, I love his mind. Mid-season, I thought he was maybe getting a little full of himself and a little heady. I think he's corrected that. I've listened to his quotes in the playoffs. I am currently behind his mental makeup. Anthony Edwards, the Shark, is with you. I see you. And that all being said, a couple of comments coming from the Warriors that I think are pretty noteworthy. Steph Curry, I think, is going to try to give it a go tonight. I think that obviously gives a little ambiguity to the handicap as of 3:45 p.m. Eastern. But Draymond Green last night or the night before in a press conference said, you got to be patient. You got to give it time. You can't rush time. I thought that was kind of weird because this is potentially the last game of the season. And it got me thinking, what does he even mean by that? And I think he ultimately means that they're looking forward to next year. And I'm sitting here talking about LeBron, KD, Kawhi, all these guys. Of the old guard, truly the one player this year that did not look over the hill at all was Steph Curry. So I think Steph has at least one or two more championship-level seasons in him. And he is a few years younger than LeBron, as you guys know, which does make a big difference in your late 30s. And I think Draymond knows they acquired Jimmy Butler only about 30 games ago. So you get a summer off, you get a full training camp, you get Steph healthy, you get Jimmy rejuvenated, and you get a full 82 to give it a real run. And I think the Warriors in the offseason are going to make some acquisitions because truly coming into this year without Jimmy Butler, having Klay Thompson obviously leave the franchise and go to Dallas, I think they were kind of caught in no man's land, really just a mediocre middle point. Steph is still elite. Draymond is still a facilitator and a great on-court leader. They really didn't have anybody else. They had a bunch of middle ground role players like Buddy Hield and others. And then they had a bunch of young players like Brandon Podjemski. And you look at Brandon Podjemski in the previous game, the guy is just overwhelmed by the moment. He's too young. He didn't even play big-time college basketball. You see him trying to get his shot off. He can't get his shot off. He's not used to playing physical basketball in the NBA playoffs. Guy shot 3 for 14 from the field. He's shooting the ball. He just can't make it under pressure. Point being, I think in the offseason, the Warriors are going to really go back to the drawing board. Unlike this preseason last fall, where, again, they were kind of in the middle of nowhere with no real plan. I think Draymond knows this by his comments saying we got to take our time. They're going to try to acquire somebody. We were talking about Giannis going to Houston yesterday. Luke said something about going to San Antonio with Wemby. Obviously, the Lakers came up in conversation. But what about the Warriors? I don't know, just food for thought. But I think the Dubs are going to acquire at least one or two veteran, older than 29 or 30 pieces and try to come into next year's camp with Steph, Butler, Draymond, and another significant all-star piece. And that's going to be their final run. I truly believe when we look back in 10 years, we're going to say the 25-26 season was the Warriors' last dance, to use the words from the 98 Bulls. That all being said, I think tonight is a bit of a funeral game. I think when you get absolutely obliterated in game 2 at Minnesota, that shows you what they're capable of tonight, which is not a lot. You go back to the previous 2 games at home, they gave it their all in game 3. Game 4, they were actually up 2 points at the half and had nothing in the third quarter. I think Minnesota takes care of business. In terms of the actual spread, it's tough. Those of you guys who heard me talk about the Denver OKC game yesterday, I said I think OKC wins, but I think it's too many points for a really professional level of Denver, ex-champion, trying to win game 5 on the road. I think it's a very similar conversation. Same line, 10.5. Actually identical to where we were yesterday with Denver at OKC. I think the Warriors are going to compete here. I think ultimately Minnesota probably wins the game right in that range we saw last night with Oklahoma City by 7 or 8. I think the Warriors leave everything on the table. I think Jimmy Butler plays a lot better. If you guys look at Jimmy Butler the last game, he played really an uninspired basketball game. I think people were questioning if he was fatigued or injured because he just looked totally uninvolved. He only had 9 field goal attempts in the game. Previous 3 games, game 1, 20 attempts, game 2, 13, game 3, 26, game 4, 9. Made no sense. I think you're going to see a Jimmy Butler game tonight. I also think Buddy Hield is going to play well tonight. Buddy's actually had a very consistent series, 24 points, 15 points, 14 points, and 13 points. That's what's going to happen tonight. It's going to be Jimmy Butler, Buddy Hield. Minnesota's going to win the game. Dubs probably cover the spread. 17-minute breakdown, and we got best bets. Wednesdays are for winning, giving you guys 2 free plays, 2 best bets on NBA player performance. The buy hat is engaged. Take the Knicks at +5. Let's go to the conference finals, Knicks. We're ready, and we're ready to dominate. Also taking over Peyton Pritchard, over 14.5 points in that market. Going to open up some Q&A. I know people are in the chat. I see a bunch of guys in the chat here. NYC born. I see you. I was also born in NYC. My God, good stuff there. I think J.A. was also born in New York. You guys know this. New York City is a bunch of things, a bunch of great things. What it really is at the highest level, big-time energy. I love to bring it. I love you guys. Let's open up some Q&A here, Bernsey, and let's get in there.
Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
Questions on a Wednesday. Let's see who's in the chat. Please drop your questions. I will give you the best answers I can come up with. Anand, our guy, what's going on, brother? Under 208 in the Knicks game. Let me look at the numbers here and see the projections. I have the game to be really tight on the number. You guys know when I handicap these numbers in my model, it can print out incredibly sharp figures. If you guys heard what I said last night about the OKC game, one of our guys in the chat was saying that betting pros, I actually have no idea who betting pros are. It's whatever, said they loved the over in the OKC game last night. And I said it's an under, but I said it's tight. The line was 221.5. And I actually said on record here, I have it graded to hit 218 points. The final score was 112-105, 217. So my model is incredibly, incredibly sharp. And just to emphasize not only the sharpness of it, but just how sharp book lines are as well, particularly in the playoffs. Oftentimes you don't see a lot of gaps off the line. They got great data. They're data abundant. It's May. And also these are professional teams, the best teams in the world. They play very consistently to their pace and their field goal percentage. This is that. This is very sharp. I have this to finish at 207 points. And again, some of these numbers are basically push numbers, which to the average person, I know most of you guys in the chat are absolutely not casual about this. So I'm not saying you guys, but I know you go into a bar and people are like, I can't believe the books nailed it. Like they think there's some sort of conspiracy or it's rigged. It's not. It's just honestly the guys play the exact same pace. They shoot the same amount of shots and they shoot a very similar field goal percentage. So the books can put this into an algorithm and print out numbers, and it just comes up sharp. And I think that's kind of where we are tonight. I think this is going to be real tight. I'm just looking at where the total is now. You can get 208 on most books. It looks like it's ticked down to 207.5 on DraftKings, MGM, and others. Again, it's if you can get 208, it's actually an underplay. But it's going to be incredibly tight. So better looks, but the under is the right side there. Next question. Funging-tastic. What's up, brother? Your take on middling. How early or late in the game will you middle, or do you base distribute the amount of the spread? I want to ask Jay the same question. So bring his ass home for vacation. Honestly, it's really hard for me to answer that question on a short form show like this because it's very complicated. It could take me 10 minutes to answer, not because the strategy is necessarily that complicated, but because, as you said, how late, how early, the spread, what it is it's very spot specific. And we'd have to really run down like 20 different environments in terms of game flow, spread, home road, opponent quality, expectations. And we'd really have to run through why we could buy low within a game or not. And again, it's very ultra specific to who's playing and what's going on in the game. So we'll definitely put that on note and have a deeper conversation, hopefully in the future. Just too many things going on to really give you a precise answer there. Every penny OTL. What's up, brother? First quarter money lines parlay Celts T-Wolves at plus 129. Tough read there. As I said, I think Boston has to come out with some energy here, and I think they will. The Knicks have been very good on the road in the first quarter, particularly in environments against teams like the current Boston roster tonight. I actually believe that this current Boston roster tonight is pretty much weighted right where the books had Detroit at home in round one. If you remember, I believe game 6, books had Detroit, I think -3 at home. This opened right around 3.5. So again, this is never Tatum versus Cade Cunningham, Duren versus Horford. Has nothing to do with that. What it means is that the sportsbooks algorithms are weighting these players as a group, very similar to how they had Detroit. And the Knicks did perform well, as I said, 3-0 ATS and straight up at Detroit. And the Knicks actually performed very well in the first quarter at Detroit. And I do think that Boston's first quarter ability at home historically, which we know did sort of wane this year a little bit. Boston was not the historical juggernaut at home they used to be in the first quarter. It is Tatum. He'll come out and he'll hit like 3 threes in the first quarter, and the guys will feed off of that. So as much as I like the idea that Boston has to come out and set the tone, I just don't think it necessarily correlates to the number or the energy in the game. And final point within this question, as I said, Tatum did not play home game 2. It was game 2 against the Magic. The Celtics didn't come out particularly well in that game. The Magic came out and covered the first quarter. It was 23-21 Boston. Boston was laying, I believe, 3.5. So it's very tight. Obviously, one bucket against the spread, but Orlando did cover the first quarter in game 2 in Boston when Tatum didn't play. So Knicks could cover it. And, we always talk about this. Why is it plus odds? It's the books think something's fishy here. If these were supposed to win, you'd have to lay juice. It's an interesting concept because I think a lot of people oftentimes think, oh, it's great. It's an underdog. It has value. I get more return. It's actually a probability, and you get paid based on the probability. If it's improbable to hit, it's not supposed to hit, you get paid more. So always look at the line as a probability first, not a price. You want this to actually be favored, so it's strong in the mind of the books. You want this to be like -115 or higher, like -120. They're telling you something is off with this. And just as a corollary to this point in the conversation, if you guys see a lot of money line parlays, which you guys might have looked at in the playoffs recently, I certainly have. Some of these teams that are supposed to win, like Cleveland, OKC, Denver, all these teams, I'm looking at these money line parlays for teams that historically like have to win in a desperation spot. Books will put out a line like plus 143. And I'm like, looking at like Cleveland and I'm looking at Denver and I'm like, wait, one of these teams is going to lose. That's why it's plus odds. It's not value. It's plus odds. It's not going to happen. And sure enough, Cleveland loses. And I'm like, wow, like I would have gotten dusted off for like multiple units had I taken these plus odds spots in in the ideology that these teams have to hit. Let the number tell you the story. It's not supposed to hit. If it does, stay away from this stuff long term. It'll get you into some weeds. Next question. How do you feel about Derek White over 18.5 points? I think it's sharp. I think Derek White is going to play well. He always seems to play well. I do think his shooting variance is intense. He did shoot very well in the previous game at Madison Square Garden. I believe he was 6 for 11 from three-point range. If you look at his three-point variance game to game, it's pretty astounding. He has yet to back up a great three-point shooting effort in the playoffs with another one the next game. The game at home against Orlando in game 2 without Tatum, he did not go over 18.5, where theoretically he probably should have, given his shot selection and the amount of volume. He didn't shoot very well in the game. He shot 3 for 10 from 3. I'll actually bring up his game-to-game flow here for a second, because I think it's actually very interesting. I looked at this with detail. I looked at it for easily 15 to 20 minutes this morning, trying to get to him, but I couldn't do it for these reasons. Let me just pull it up real quick. See my guys in the chat. Kelly P, what's up, bro? Johnny King, what's the deal? W Main, the G, what's up, bro? Bunch of big dogs in the house here. Let me just pull this up real quick here. All right, Derek White, 30-year-old from Colorado. You guys know Derek White's getting paid over $20 million a year. I just saw that. Shout out to Derek White. What a grinder. All right, so if you go through his playoff games here, okay, so here's also the sharpness of the line. Talk about the line being right in the one bucket range. These are his outputs in the playoffs. Last 7, 17, 16, 18, 5, outlier, 19, 20, 17, 23. And that includes the game without Tatum. So, I mean, look at how sharp this is. You're literally just coin flipping if he hits like one shot versus a miss. Sometimes books just get the line right. Of course, if he explodes for 30, so be it. But you want to avoid these lines where it really is right in the range and you're just coin flipping. Next question. Mario Gramajo, what's up, bro? Bridges over 22 PRA. This would be a good question for Luke. Luke looks at this in more detail. I think Bridges obviously went nuts in the last game. I think he had his best game of the series. I know he certainly scored the ball, the best he's shot in the series. I do think naturally, again, backing up huge with huge is difficult. Usually when guys go nuts, they come down a little bit the next game. I can't give you advice on that. I didn't look at the peripherals meaning rebounds and assists. It's going to be tough for me there. Luke, if you want to send him a DM on IG, he'll probably respond if you follow Luke on IG there. And Johnny says, are you still on X? I haven't seen you. Yeah, I mean, I still have my account. I'm working full-time with Why Lose, my guy Jay Cavalier, Burnsy, all our guys, of course, Luke, and a big team here. So this is where I'll be full-time. Of course, Sharky Waters Nation on there, my original channel, my organic channel. But it's all coming together here. Big collabs, big business. We are here. We are now. We're ready to dominate. So I appreciate you, Johnny. Follow here, and we will move forward. A bunch of guys talking about baseball in here. The baseball show will be starting relatively soon. We're working on a bunch of moving parts there. But that is the show for today. NBA player performance on this Wednesday. 2 big games. Enjoy it, and let's cash. For J.A. Cavalier, for Luke, the prop master, I am the Shark. Stay fast, stay strong, stay disciplined, and let's dominate.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. Suffocation.